Hello, welcome back to Crush 'em TV. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you like the discussion. And folks, we've got a major problem here. This monument removal crap needs to stop. Something like this should be voted on by the people if it is going to be done and happen. Not because some minority percentage of the population raised hell, rioted, got somebody hurt and demanded it, because that is the same thing as negotiating with terrorists. Antifa and BLM, make no doubt, they are terrorists. They are racists. The Antifa manual specifically says not to give it out to anybody that's white. BLM's shot cops. They go down the street chanting, "Kill the white guy, kill the pigs." These aren't good people, but we're letting them rule society because those are the people that blew everything up down in Charlotte that were fighting the Nazis. The Nazis are bad guys, but Trump was right when he called out the fact that the other two opposition groups that showed up were also bad. And not only that, they showed up armed, specifically looking for trouble to go at each other. You had three groups down there, none of which was good. They're all bad apples. And the rest of America is sitting back and watching. And now we are all going to lose our history and legacy, monuments to people's relatives that died in the war. Now, hey, you don't have to agree with the South. I mean, of course, they lost. They weren't right on everything. They were wrong on slavery. But these were still monuments to family members of people who lost loved ones in that war, a war in which more people died than all of our other wars combined. Something like that should be voted on. And in fact, the most recent poll shows that 62% of Americans are against this removal. So why the hell is it happening? Because we're going to let this violent little population tell everybody else what to do? Where's that going to stop? We already have a policy of not negotiating with terrorists, but that is exactly what they've done. They're removing monuments from graveyards. There's no excuse for that. Those are monuments to people's relatives that passed. That's sick. Taking that away. Taking headstones away. Taking, monuments away. Some jerks even went and tried to dig up a dead body of a Confederate. How sick is that? Now, they didn't dig it all the way up, but they did break ground, and they stopped partway in and then made a threat, "We're going to come back and finish the job if you guys don't move a body." Come on, people, that shit is going too far. You don't let a minority violent population tell the rest of us what to do. But that is exactly what they're doing.
Being taken away. There you see it in the back of that pickup truck.
Hold on just a moment.
This one was removed from a cemetery in Hollywood, California.
Silence that crap. I don't want to hear CNN line news. But now, if you are going to go and remove these, what about statues of minority leaders who also have some bad traits? Martin Luther King was anti-gay, very much anti-gay. If you use their logic and say, well, anybody who wasn't perfect and anybody who has a trait that we now in our society consider bad and evil, that person has to be wiped out of history, then by that logic, you need to go remove MLK's name off everything it's on. You need to remove all of MLK's statues if you are going to use the logic of Antifa and BLM. Because that's their logic for removing the Confederate statues. Now, the Confederates were right in fighting for greater states' rights. They were wrong in supporting slavery. So they're being wiped out, not for the good they did, but for the bad idea that they had. Well, MLK had a bad idea. Malcolm X, he's got statues up all over the country. His name's on things. He was definitely an anti-white racist. You know, he was all about, black power, and not in a good way. He was for violent, bad opposition. So by their logic, he should also be removed. So if you're going to continue this stuff, where does it stop? They have statues up to Sitting Bull, who killed 250 American soldiers. By their logic, because he did some bad things too, he should also be removed. Now, let me be clear, for the record, I personally feel that all those statues should stay. But if that is how they're going to be, and that is the logic they are going to use, then they all need to go, and they need to do it right. But more importantly than anything, this should be voted on by the American people. Not done in the middle of the night by the mayor of Baltimore, or up in Kentucky, or wherever else it was that they did it in the middle of the night. It shouldn't be hidden under cover of darkness. I mean, that right there alone lets you know that they're doing something they know is wrong. If it wasn't wrong, you wouldn't need the cover of night to cover up what you're doing. People need to think and use their heads. What they're doing is wrong. And like I said before, the latest poll shows that the majority of Americans are against this. It should be voted on. You don't let a minority population rule the rest of us. That's just not the way we do things. It's not the way we've ever done things. And it sure as hell isn't the way we ought to be doing it now. The more I see this, the more angry I get. And I'm certain there's a lot of other people that are feeling the same way. They're getting more and more mad. And the people that support this, they're not doing it out of niceness. They're not doing it because of hurt feelings. They do it out of racism towards whites. These are the same people that are marching down the street to kill white people. They're not going, if they were truly concerned about the real social issues, they would not be going only after statues of white men. But that's what they're doing. They're not going after statues of other ethnicities that also had bad character traits. Now again, to be clear, so that people don't distort this, if I had it my way, all the statues would stay up. Because, the humans aren't perfect. And it is extremely possible for people to do a lot of good things, but then have a bad idea. Like MLK. He was a great guy. But of course he had that anti-gay thing. Now, if you take their actions to their logical conclusion, he should be removed. But of course, you're also talking about a guy that did some good things. The Confederate statues are the same way. Those guys were not 100% bad. Yes, they did support some things that are not acceptable in current society. But their history should not be wiped out and hidden. That's what ISIS and the Taliban does. You know, which is rather funny because you got these Antifa and BLM groups that some people do not want to admit are terrorists, and the majority of America says they are terrorists, and look at what they're doing. Again, another terrorist-like action. The same thing that ISIS and the Taliban does. This removal needs to stop now, before violence breaks out. You think you saw violence in Charlotte? You keep this up, and I'm certain things are going to boil over and get worse. You know, because it's not right, it's not just. It's just more racism is what it is. A better idea would be for the people that actually only see racism in those statues, which I don't agree with them. I think they feel that way because of racism in their own heart. If you look around and you see racism in everything, everywhere you look, it's probably because you yourself are a racist. But if some people want to offset that and they really think that those things are a symbol of racism, instead of destroying somebody else's history and somebody else's monument to relatives that have passed and things like that, how about instead you erect something beside it, nearby, similar, put it right beside it if you want to, that is a monument to something that they feel is appropriate, that is like a yin-yang to it that, combats it in their eyes. But again, it should be voted on by the public. These things should not just be done due to a minority group blowing up and causing violence. And it should not be a decision that is made by a few politicians in rooms under cover of night, hidden away from everybody. This is America's history. It's not the mayor's history. It's not a couple delegates' history. This is our nation, and our nation should be voting on it. Hit like and subscribe. Take care, stay safe, and God help us all.